So, hello and welcome to Kitty Talks. We share inspirational life stories that empower you to create yours. And today I have with me a really, really good friend of mine who is also part of the Network for Transformational Leaders that I run with a wonderful Marsha Martin. Susanne Fransden, welcome all the way from Denmark.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here, Kitty.
Well, Susanne, I knew I had to get on the podcast because we are kindred spirits. We are both very much in the purpose conversation. Susanne is a Danish transformational leader and very much a catalyzer for change. Her passion is to help individuals and organizations live out their passion and their highest purpose. Without further ado, welcome to Kitty Talks. And I would love you to explain to our audience just a little bit more about who you are and what you do in the world.
Thank you, Kitty. Yeah, who am I? Who am I? That's a big question, right? And I just did a rebranding process where I found this tagline, catalyzing change, because I was really investigating myself and seeing what is my superpower. And this is actually, in short, what I can see that I do. I'm very good at creating a crack in people's minds, in their awareness. And, when awareness change, then the reality change as well. And this goes on both an individual level and an organizational level, that if you can just change your mind, you can use the picture of, you think the world is a flat one. And once you see a picture of this round globe, you can never, ever go back to believing it's flat. So this is kind of what I do and love doing, really, really love doing. And I have been working with individuals for 2-3 years really intensively and have been trying to fine-tune my tools. And now I'm going back into the corporate world where I came from way back to see how can I come full circle. Wow. I was a management consultant earlier on. And I did actually help many companies fine-tune their value chains and processes and how can we align the organization and stuff. But I still felt that something was missing. I still felt that this was somehow wrong without being able to put a finger on it, because it was too fluffy. But I knew by the end of this journey that we need to go into the individual even deeper to crack it. So that is some of the longings that brought me into this area of personal development, that I realized that you cannot change organizations, you cannot align processes without taking this personal perspective into the whole picture. So that is what I do now. And love doing, but it came out of my own personal misery journey, I guess you know that for yourself. Yeah, we all do.
We all have that.
We awaken, in the darkness.
So tell me a little bit about that journey, because obviously with our listeners, they're on their journey of self-discovery. They're uncovering their purpose by listening to these podcasts. So tell us and explain to us your transition and your journey. Like you said, obviously you were working with corporates strategically, but you felt like something was missing. Talk us through your transition.
Well, if I didn't realize this until I was 42 or something when I was writing my book, but what I came to realize that I have been in this beautiful family, and I guess that most people would have not thought that I would be comfortable there. But what I realized is that I had this story within me that I wasn't loved and I wasn't wanted. So I wasn't good enough, I wasn't lovable, was my core beliefs. And I didn't know this up until much later, but it was my fuel to investigate this. How are people, how do we work as people? And I can see now in the hindsight that this was in order for me to find a reason that had nothing to do with something being wrong with me. So I guess that was my fuel. But I was in this beautiful family, and I mean, this is my story. I'm sure my parents loved me to the extent that they were able to. I just didn't feel it, and I guess I fall into the category of being sensitive or strong in sensing energies. So I felt this dissonance in what was said and done and what I felt. So growing up in this energy, I came to the conclusion that what I feel is wrong. What I'm seeing and hearing must be right. So I turned off my intuition to some extent, I think, when I was younger. And I had to relearn how to open up to that ability. I can see that I have been able to follow my intuition work-wise, but in my relationships, I wasn't able to, in my close relationships.
That kind of mirrored your family experience, because I felt that like disconnect as a growing up. So you then attracted relationships where there was a disconnect effectively.
Yeah, and I was married and divorced 3 times. So, I mean, I've done my work. But actually, I think I was in a loving relationship with this young guy when I was 15, and then we broke up, and I felt kind of baffled by this and shaken up. And I remember that I started to pray. I don't exactly know what I prayed about and what the details was, but I do remember what came back to me. And this one sentence came: "We're all one." And back then, I did not know the full extent of that understanding. But now, when I understand the brain and the heart and epigenetics and quantum physics and all this, it makes so much more sense. This sentence, but it has been a guiding light for me ever since, because I would constantly ask myself, so if we're all one, what would that mean to my behavior in this situation? So it's been like a guiding light for me. I got even more into it. And then when I had my first child, I was 23. And it was a birth with complications, because I suddenly lost 1.2 liters of blood, and I had to go into surgery quite quickly. And I don't know if it was because of this experience or if it was the birth itself. But afterwards, I had like 5 days of experience this oneness and understanding everything there is. It sounds like
wow,
too
so the
big,
birth was almost
but I had the
awakening.
Yeah, it was a big awakening. And I mean, to this day, I cannot put words on this experience, but what it left me with when it closed down was this knowing, this knowing of how everything worked. And this I had brought with me, and I was in my first marriage, and I realized that this was not really going the way I wanted it to go. And I sort of fell into, some might call it depression, and also sleep deprivation. My first kid didn't sleep until she was 9, and my husband worked nights. So I had to do both. 9 years. It was like,
oh my God.
The year it was worst, I had like 7, what do you call it, when your throat is red and swallowed and everything is, I had 7. Yeah, I had 7 of those 1 year. Yeah. And my immune system was totally broken down.
You know, that's speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Tonsillitis is all around.
I know. I know. Yeah.
So that
and this, she was my teacher. She was waking me up, and I have thanked her afterwards, because I was just waking in. I'm very strong as a person. So for me to create a change, I had to suffer quite a bit to be willing to change. For my mind to be willing to change. So it was important for me to be broken down in order for me to break through. So I remember when I was 29 or so, I had this awakening after, I think I literally spent a year on my couch, because I was so broken down. And then when I came out of this, I decided that
how did you, sorry? Well, I'm fascinated by the subject of breaking down to break through. Like, it's something that is big in my life at the moment with what's happening with my mum. I totally believe you have to break down to break through. And so I was just wondering, what was the thing that brought you out of it, or how did it change? Like, how did you break through?
I think it is my perseverance, and I think it is also a comment made by my dad to one of my girlfriends. I was doing my thesis back then, and I decided to throw it out and take a temporary job just to come out and get some adult stimulation. And after 4 or 5 months, I met this girlfriend, and she says, well, I met your parents downtown, and your dad said that he didn't think that you would ever finish your thesis. And now he didn't say it to me, but I heard it. And this is not something you say to me, because it's awakened something in me. And I got access to this power within that I didn't think I had. So I actually succeeded in doing this. Yeah. And I turned my day-night upside down so that I could sleep during day, and then I could write my thesis in night, and I could go into my daughter every 10-15 minutes when she needed me. So this is how I did it, and it was awful. It was, it was really an awful period, but I did it, and I had good results, but I didn't get the recognition from my dad. But I did get a good job, and then my corporate career took off, and everything. I was in the corporate area for like 12, 13 years until I came out of my box.
It's funny what we do, isn't it, to get the love of one parent. Like they say there's always one parent.
Yeah.
Love of more.
And it's never a coincidence what happens. I mean, seen in the hindsight, I can see that everything was like a red thread, and it happened for a reason.
And would you say
I'm very happy he did
to wake you up? Like, would you say, like, now you look back, because one of the things we talk about on the podcast is the following the breadcrumbs. So when you're out of alignment with Dharma, when you're not doing what you should be doing, there's almost these circumstances that kind of trying to wake you up to get you onto that right path.
To push us back on track. Yeah, for sure. And then I tried so many different modalities in the period of my life to sort of find out who am I. And then I got divorced, and I kept being curious onto the spiritual alternative things. And actually so much so that I took a healing education a year after I started in this corporate world. And I actually could not stop talking about this, because I've seen the light kind of thing, energy I had with me. And the corporate world was kind of like, well, usually we can trust what she's saying. So we will give her the benefit of the doubt and listen. And actually within a short period of time, I was kind of like the management consultant, the key account manager / board member that took my clients, and if they had anything imbalance on a physical level, I would heal them, and then we would write the document, the lawful document for them buying for millions from me. So I totally mixed it.
So I like undercover and kind of work. You were kind of
it wasn't really undercover. It was all out in the open. And then at one point, one of the CEOs in the company, I was in the board of members as an employee elected member of the board, and we had this lunch, and he asked me, so tell me again, this healing you're doing, what is that? And I was kind of like, oh shit, I will get a slap over my finger for doing this, but that wasn't it. He was asking me because, well, I'm training for a marathon, and my foot hurt, and I just went to the doctor, and he said it was broken for 6 weeks now, and he advised me to not run it on it. And I said, well, it sounds like good advice. And he said, well, yeah, but I would still love to do this marathon. Can you do anything about this foot? And I said, well, I've read about that it can also promote healing of the bones, but I've never had any actual experience myself with it, but I'm willing to give it a try. And we tried to find a day where we could meet, both of us, and we were both very busy, full schedule. And I then said to him, Bjarne, we don't have to be the same place while I give you healing. I can do remote healing as well. And he was saying, what? Yeah, like when you have a radio and you want to change the station and you do the tuner, you tune to another station. I can tune into your station remotely. And he looked at me like very skeptical, saying, well, okay, if you say so. And then he had 2 remote healings and his foot was whole again.
Wow.
And he couldn't, he was just, really, cheering this on. And he couldn't stop talking about it in the whole of the organization. So by, a couple of years, everybody knew of the witch at my location. And instead of taking a pill if they had a headache, they just came and see if, is Susanne there? And then they could have 5 minutes of healing and go back to work. So I was very much out in the open.
Yeah. So fascinating how you were doing your corporate career, but obviously you were also training and doing your healing as well. And I think for people listening, who are, searching on that journey for what's next and what their purpose is, there's nothing to hurt you having a sort of stable job and then going exploring lots of different things that light you up, because as Susanne found, it kind of came together, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. By all means, do that. I mean, and what you will likely experience, as I experienced, is that when you share your inner experience, that you will see that other people around you will wake up. And that's just beautiful to, remove the gap. And also what I'm doing now and want to do more of is to go from this performance-driven culture into purpose-driven culture. And I think it's vital that people like ourselves and people listening that are awakening, that we are actually doing what we came for, that we help this awakening. And we can only do that by creating a new awareness and being willing to have people shake their heads. And just rest assured that if people project something on you, this is about them, it's not about you. So please do just share from your heart, and you will experience most likely that people will wake up. I mean, I experienced like 3 colleagues of mine took actually healing courses after me telling about it.
Right.
So it accelerated the awakening for sure.
And talk to me, because I know you're very much in the purpose conversation as well. So talk to me about your beliefs about, people having a kind of natural ability, that like a gift that they can give to the world.
I have no, doubt about that. Each and every one of us is, we are giving a superpower when we birth it. And this is just a pack of talents that you are here to pass on. And to the extent that you are not willing to be in that zone of yours, you will only postpone the well-being of the whole of mankind. If you see it as an organism, you are a cell in this bigger organism. Yeah. And you all know that if a cell in a foot is acting like a cell in a hand, this organism will over time look weird. And it's just a question of this hand cell to go back home for this whole mankind organism to become whole again. Because what I often see is that people think it's selfish to follow the calling, but actually that's not the truth. It's selfish not to follow your calling. So please do, and rest assured in the fact that once you go back and be aligned with you, everybody else around you will be aligned as well. So what's right for you is also right for everybody else.
Yeah. And what would you say to people listening who are searching, who, don't really know where to start? What advice would you have for them?
I usually use the picture of a passion flower. And I think you should sit down with yourself and make a list where you should ask yourself 3 important questions. So what do I love doing? What am I good at? And where do people ask me for advice? Because where there's an overlap of these three areas, there will also be a career. But since we are raised in a culture where we say things like no pain, no gain. And if you say A, you should also say B. This rests upon a belief that things should be difficult and hard. And living out your purpose and your dharma is the exact opposite. It's joyful, it's easy. And we have to change those stories in order for us to be able to live out our purpose. We have to be willing to change no pain, no gain to no gain with pain. And we have to be willing to follow the path of least resistance and most excitement. Beautiful. That's another good rule of thumb. Yeah.
And can you, in your own experience, because personally, I've had the same experience, when I was back in my corporate days, I felt like I was pushing mud uphill would be the expression that I was, working long hours, going down the pub at the weekend to blow off a load of steam because, just the way how you did it. And life had a very different feel to it. And I would personally say that since I have, like we described, change lanes would be the expression I'd use, got into that flow of life. Like now, it's beautiful. I have created a very different style of life that you do feel like you're in flow and that you trust things come to you. But I just would like to hear your kind of experience on that. Have you noticed a different way now that you live your life?
Totally. It's like it's another world. It's another paradigm. I have been a very much doing person. Based on my upbringing and also my seeking of approval and 3 marriages and then breakups, and I have 3 kids and a house and a business. I've been very much into doing.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a journey, and I guess to some extent still is, of learning that being is actually enough.
Right.
And I can see that, to my experience, that when I am willing on a personal level to go deep within my both low and high vibrations, so that I can clear all frequencies of emotions from, the guilt, the shame, the anger, up until the highest, the gratitude, that when you're willing to clear those blockages within, then you can hold space for everybody else that comes into your space to also clear that out in them just by you being there. So sometimes I experience that I can meet people, doing the groceries in the shops, and I can just stand there in front of them and they break down, in tears.
Holding that space for them. That's incredible.
Just for being there. So I actually think that we should learn that it is our being that is of value instead of our doing. And I'm just slowly learning that. And these past years for me as well has been a matter of learning trust, 100% trust into life, that this life and this universe is a loving one. And I should just lean back into this trust. So if we can just integrate that full trust belief into all of ourselves, then we will discover that so many thoughts and so many behaviors, things that we do, will come out of a totally different place in us. So ask yourself, where am I guided or by fear? Yeah. And where am I guided by trust? Yes. It creates a totally different, but oftentimes, and in my life as well, it's been a question of letting life destroy me. And in order for me to let go of everything that isn't me, all the shadows and all the survival strategies and all the handbrakes that we pull. So, yeah.
And I could totally relate to that because my own breakdowns are all around masks. I was wearing so many masks, trying to be so many things to so many people. I wasn't being authentic to myself. I was totally out of whack with myself and life. And I think, that's my own personal experience of when we break down, is because like you said, the universe is pulling us a different direction, and we're resisting and we keep resisting until we break. But talk to me about, because there's one thing I just want you to share, because I think it's a great example for people listening, is that we talk about this flow of life, and when you go a different direction. I know obviously how you came to be a member of our organization is a pretty cool story, because that's a great example of synchronicity and hacks. So if you could share that.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, sure I will. So I did my first passion test on the 7th of June in 2013. And up until this point, I've been mostly focused on what I didn't want in my life. And this was the first time that I actually shifted my focus onto what I did want in my life.
Wow,
so, yeah, and I just experienced so much synchronicity and flow at this moment. But this one incident that you're asking me about is that I remember making a passion about how I wanted to co-create kind of like heaven on earth. In a big scale with other people, like-minded people. And under this passion, I made a marker that I am not really sure where it came from, because to my knowledge today, I don't know that I knew of this organization, but out came a marker saying I am a member of ATL. And I just stated that. No, I mean, I was just thinking about it yesterday, and I really cannot recall that I have ever heard of it. But I wrote this down, and then 2 months went by, and I participated in this event in Denmark called Elevate. And then all of a sudden, this woman came and patted me on the back, and she asked, "So who are you?" And I explained, who am I? And this was the beautiful Monique from Germany. And I was explaining about what I'm doing. She was really interested. And I shared with her at one point that I would really love to be a part of a community that, was like-minded. And I mentioned it. And she said, "Well, you know what? I'm a member. And so is Runa standing over there. And we would love to have you as a member." And I said, "Okay, cool. Yeah, we just have to, we're two. And if we say yes, you can be a member." So it was kind of like, what?
But that's
how did this happen?
Did you really know what it was, though? Or did you know the name of it? Or
I was thinking about it yesterday, and the only thing maybe Janet Atwood, the founder of the Passion Test, she was giving me the Passion Test on this day, and she might have mentioned TLC and maybe ATL. I don't know, but it was like a detail in so much more other info, and I didn't really know it, but I put it down.
Out of your unconscious.
Yeah, it did.
Unconscious told you what it was.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And I had such a blast this, the coming year after doing this. It was like I was pinching myself, because it just opened up to a flow that, I really pinched myself.
Yeah.
And it was
it's my own experience.
Big awakening to see how just once you get aligned, the universe, it's like selling candy in a shop or in a schoolyard. The universe really wants you to wake up, so it will really do whatever it can to keep you focused on this new path. And then once you go a little bit further down this path, you might experience a little bit of a rough time again, because the soul is expansive of nature. So we want to evolve all the times. But it really did do its job. I was hooked on this journey.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then I wrote my book, and everything else is history.
And so now you obviously do healing work. Do you work one-to-one with clients on the subject of helping them uncover their purpose?
Yeah, it's the base of everything I do. But what I also found out that if I could, I've invented my own coaching style, and what I experience is when I use this modality that I downloaded myself, and then I do the passion test afterwards, I can go much deeper with people, and I I have successfully helped people heal even chronic diseases in just one-on-one session. And just yesterday, I had this call from a man, 59, a leader, entrepreneur. He was here on the 28th of January, and he was just, calling me, and he said, well, I think I owe you some kind of feedback from my session with you. And said, well, please do. I welcome that. And he said, I don't know if you can recall me, but when I came to you, I was kind of like totally crook in my back. I had a discus in my back, and I hadn't been sleeping in my bed for a long time. I slept in my couch, upright sitting. Wow. And then I was at your place. And then when I came back home to my girlfriend this same evening, I said, well, you know what? I think I will lay down in the bed tonight. And he had done that before, but usually he woke up after half an hour with a lot of pain. But only to discover that he woke up in his bed next morning, and he's been able to sleep in his bed ever since. Right. And this was just a 3-hour session where I do the coaching and the passion test, and then he had 1 hour of healing. So he was here 4 hours, and then that happened. So today I don't heal on people unless I have been doing, the mental, the inner work. Where we discover what are your shadows, where are your limiting beliefs, where are your traumas. So how is the epigenetics working on you? And then I help them release it through awareness, and then I can help the body with the healing to let go of all the heavy stuff, and then things can really happen. Yeah, I've had really amazing breakthrough stories.
And where can people find out more about you?
Well, I do have SusanneFransden.dk and .com maybe also in a while. I'm just launching a new website right now. So, but they can also find me online on Facebook, Susanne Fransden, Catalyzing Change. I have a Danish page, and I also have an English page. And I also have actually written several English ebooks for people to download for free, and of course also Danish. I also wrote a Danish book called Director's Manual, Heartfelt Leadership, but it's only in Danish as of now. And it's called Direktørmanualen, ledelse fra hjertet, if you are Danish. Yeah.
I'm sure
that was just well yeah.
Oh, Susanne, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey.
And can I add just one thing? Because I'm actually also a member of the Changemakers. So you can also find me online on runermagnus.com. If you click on the Changemakers, I'm also there.
Another of our members. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your story. And it's, it sounds like you've had a bit of a bumpy awakening along the way, but now you are totally on the right path. And as Susanne mentioned, we're going to have all her details in the show notes, so you'll be able to connect with her there. But please do let us know what you think of the podcast. And Susanne, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye, guys. And we will see you again next week on Kitty Talks. Bye-bye. This podcast was sponsored by my Do Your Dharma course. Create a life so good that you pinch yourself. This 8-week online course demystifies Dharma and shows you how to tune in to why you're really here. Go to www.kittytalks.com/do your Dharma.